A blond man in a blue cape stands before a burning castle, demanding to know what is happening. A voice calls out Alfred as a white-haired woman, bleeding from her mouth, furiously declares he won't get away with this. Alfred stands over the defeated woman, vowing to break free from her control and rule over the country and its people. Splat with a single brutal swing of his sword, Alfred plunges them both into darkness. Now holding the bloodied sword, Alfred's eyes are described as dark and stagnant, gazing into the abyss. In a modern office, a woman with short brown hair forces a pained smile while holding a document. The woman gestures angrily, insisting she was only trying to point out a mistake. Her boss sighs, admitting she is excellent at sales but criticizes her for being too direct before stating the decision is final. He pats her shoulder with a creepy smile, dismissively telling her to take care of herself. As the woman, Mochida, walks away, her co-workers gossip about her demotion, calling her difficult and resentful. Alone at home, Mochida drinks and fumes, ranting about her achievements being ignored and being cast aside over minor criticism. While scrolling through a novel on her phone, she scoffs at the villainess, Maria, who was killed by her stepson, feeling it was deserved. Overwhelmed by her own misfortune, Mochida breaks down in tears over her phone. A white-haired woman awakens in a luxurious room, confused and shocked to see her own face reflected in her eye. The woman, now Lady Maria, is startled when a maid enters and addresses her by her new name. Panicked, Maria clutches her chest, completely bewildered by the situation. Hearing a maid call for Lord Alfred, Maria realizes with dawning horror that she's in the world of the novel. Seeing her new appearance reflected in her phone, she confirms the unbelievable truth. She's inside the novel. The story's narrative introduces its hero, Prince Carlos, who grows into a true king through many hardships. However, the story also has a villain, identified as none other than Alfred Brown. Gazing at her reflection, she accepts her fate. She is reincarnated as the villain's stepmother. Maria panics, freaking out that she woke up in a novel after drinking too much, while the maid offers to call a doctor. She stares in terror at a small boy, realizing this innocent-looking child is the one who will one day kill her. She resolves to handle the situation by being kind, but when she tries to speak, she discovers she has lost her voice. Mute and horrified, her failed attempt to speak frightens young Alfred, who runs away thinking she yelled at him. Utterly defeated by her inability to communicate, Maria collapses onto a sofa in despair. She laments that with no way to talk to Alfred, she is doomed to be killed, her fate echoing her past life's criticisms. Lost in hopelessness, she desperately wishes she could have a do-over. Maid approaches, remarking that it's only natural for Lady Maria to be exhausted since she just got married. The maid explains that the doctor believes her mysterious condition is simply fatigue from her recent marriage. Realizing these events happened shortly after her marriage, she understands she still has time before her fated death. She decides her inability to speak might be a blessing and resolves to avoid the original story's deadly outcome. With newfound determination, she declares, "Screw the original story." A spark of defiance in her eyes, she decides she will do things her way. A bouquet of blue roses signifies her firm decision to change her fate. Determined to manage somehow, even without her voice, Maria gets up to face her new reality. Heek. Alfred gasps as Maria approaches with a strange smile, holding a note asking to talk for a moment. She tries to walk towards him, but trips on her elaborate dress, crying out for him to wait. As she reaches out, a frightened Alfred runs away, leaving her wondering why he flees from her. Dejected, she realizes he won't even let her get close and retrieves his dropped toy, annoyed by her tight dress. She recalls that Maria is killed by Alfred on his 16th birthday, but since the novel was unfinished, she doesn't know the dangerous plot points of his childhood. She spots Alfred heading up the grand staircase and decides to follow. Calling his name, she carefully proceeds up the stairs, determined to be cautious this time. But her dress betrays her again, and she tumbles down the stairs in frustration. Alfred looks on in shock as she lands in a heap at the bottom of the staircase. She looks up from the floor to see Alfred standing frozen, clutching his toy. A tall, formally dressed man with blonde hair appears at the top of the stairs. The man descends the staircase with his staff, walking toward the commotion. She recognizes him as her ridiculously handsome husband, Zahar, and is stunned by his appearance. With a mischievous thought, she decides that perhaps reincarnating here isn't so bad after all. Zahar towers over Maria, who remains collapsed on the floor after her fall. With a look of utter contempt, Zahar declares her behavior disgraceful, leaving Maria stunned by his coldness. As he walks away without offering help, she trembles with rage, thinking what a terrible man he is. Fuming, Maria pushes herself up from the floor, while Zahar converses with another man. He then turns to scold a sad-looking Alfred, questioning why a 5-year-old is still attached to stuffed animals. Zahar lectures Alfred, reminding him of his future duty to the king, and dismissing his toy as foolishness. Ignoring the boy's reluctance, Zahar announces it's time for sword training and pulls Alfred away. A flashback shows a young Mochita wistfully watching other children play, remarking how nice it seems. Her memory continues, revealing her sad admission that she desperately wanted to play as well. Snap! Back in the present, Maria decisively intervenes, stopping Alfred from being dragged away. She holds the surprised boy, her thoughts firm. This child clearly does not want to do this. Zahar confronts her, asking if there's a problem. While Maria internally panics over her inability to speak, she desperately tries to communicate Alfred's reluctance through her expressions, growing more frantic. As Zahar leads him away, Alfred looks back at Maria, his expression unreadable. His thoughts reveal a secret. His mother was the one who gave him this power, but his thoughts turn bitter as he concludes that he doesn't need something like this. Zahar and Maria stare each other down over a stunned Alfred, the silence thick with unspoken conflict. Alfred finds the situation weird, recalling something strange he overheard in the past. A flashback shows Alfred watching his father, a new stepmother, from afar on their wedding day. He had wondered if this was his new mother, just as the original Maria cheerfully introduced herself to Zahar as his wife. The original Maria had told Zahar they were a married couple and would be in each other's care. She then suggested they had much to talk about, while Zahar remained silent and Alfred watched from a distance. In the flashback, the original Maria had greeted Alfred with a bright smile, calling him cute, but her expression turned cold as she grabbed his face, thinking to herself, "This one's a nuisance." The flashback ends, showing Zahar and Alfred walking away from the confrontation. Maria suddenly realizes with a jolt that Alfred seemed genuinely worried about her when she fell. The encounter leaves a bitter taste as she realizes Zahar is just like her controlling father. She flashes back to her childhood, where her strict parents forbade her from playing with friends. Her father's voice echoes in her memory, insisting a woman's greatest happiness is marriage and children. She remembers arguing with her parents, defiantly refusing marriage, only to be silenced by her furious father. As her mother called her name, Rai, she had stormed off, vowing to decide her own life. The memory concludes with her leaving home with a suitcase, never to look back. In despair, she realizes that after all her struggles for freedom, she has married a man just like her father. Fuming on the couch, she sighs, finding Zahar's attitude incredibly disappointing and annoying. She puzzles over the logic of forcing a 5-year-old to practice swordsmanship. Resigned, she decides to just shut up, recalling he told her not to get in his way. Out in a training yard, Zahar stands with a small, sad-looking Alfred, both holding wooden swords. But unable to stay away, a disguised Maria peeks from a distance, having changed her mind. Peering from behind a column, she chastises herself, wondering what she's even doing here. She watches as Zahar directs Alfred toward a wooden training dummy. She admits to herself she was curious and just had to know if Alfred was okay. Alfred's thoughts betray his fear. He doesn't want to fight or be hurt. After tripping, Alfred is harshly ordered by Zahar to stop dilly-dallying. With forced enthusiasm, Alfred strikes the dummy as his father offers hollow encouragement. Zahar relentlessly pushes him, demanding he swing faster as Alfred struggles. Wow! Overwhelmed, Alfred starts crying and drops the heavy sword. He collapses to the ground in exhaustion and tears while Zahar watches, unmoved. Zahar criticizes his son's slow movements as Alfred continues to feebly strike the dummy. As Alfred weeps on the ground, Zahar coldly commands him to get up. Unable to watch any longer, Maria dashes forward, her disguise flying off as she runs to intervene. Maria stands defiantly between Zahar and Alfred, shielding the small boy from his father. Zahar coldly challenges her, telling her to say what she wants to say. He confronts Maria directly, asking if she is unable to speak. Zahar scoffs, accusing her of being on strike and questioning her true intentions, leaving Maria stunned and speechless. Internally, Maria wonders in disbelief if her new husband is an airhead. A dark-haired man addresses Zahar, noting he was just feigning ignorance, before presenting a doctor's note confirming his wife is unable to speak. The dark-haired man politely introduces himself to Maria, stating this is their first meeting. He identifies himself as Melio, Mr. Zahar's aide, and says he will be in her care. Remembering her condition, Melio offers her a pen and paper he brought along. As she writes, she worries that Zahar doubts her and wonders if Alfred resents her due to the original Maria's strictness. She realizes with grim certainty that since Alfred is fated to kill them both, she and Zahar share a common enemy. Zahar accuses her of distrust and warns her not to get in his way, but she smirks, thinking he's the one in the way. Maria smiles sweetly and backs down, while a furious Zahar decides to leave, storming off with Melio. As they depart, a suspicious Zahar asks Melio what Maria could be scheming with her sudden muteness. Melio reasons that with a doctor's note, her condition is likely genuine. Zahar dismisses it, calling her a famous villainess and ordering Melio to watch her closely. Melio agrees, but observes Zahar can't relax in his own home, which Zahar accepts as unavoidable. A flashback to a king on his throne reveals that this unhappy marriage was a royal decree. Meanwhile, Alfred sits alone and sad on his large bed when a maid calls to him from the doorway. Kia! The maid rushes to his side, shocked to see that he is all wounded. Cradling his stuffed toy, Alfred quietly confirms that he is in pain. He hugs the toy tightly, hiding his tear-streaked face in sadness. Hearing a knock and a voice permitting entry, Alfred turns toward the grand doors. Huh! He gasps in shock at the sight of his visitor. Maria enters with a first aid kit, and Alfred timidly wonders if she is there to treat him. Ugh. Alfred flinches in pain as Maria gently tends to his knee, telling him to take it easy. Maria assesses his scrapes, noting they look bad and need quick treatment, as Alfred watches her with wide, uncertain eyes. As Alfred cries out that it hurts, Maria reassures him she'll be quick while cleaning his wound. With the wound cleaned, Maria gives him a gentle smile, explaining that now she just needs to apply bandages. She looks at him with newfound admiration, thinking he's amazing for enduring such harsh training while still crying. When Alfred offers a small smile, Maria is taken aback by how quickly his expression can change. Maria carefully finishes wrapping a bandage around Alfred's scraped knee. A memory surfaces of other children calling a younger Alfred no fun. Maria cheerfully announces she's all done, but Alfred's expression falls as he remembers the training isn't over. Pondering, she silently questions if the training could be adjusted for him, catching Alfred's curious gaze. Alfred clenches his little fists, looking both hopeful and nervous. He brightens, asking if she really means it, and Maria seems to confirm his hope. With wide, pleading eyes, Alfred softly asks if Maria is leaving him. Struck by a sudden, powerful emotion, Maria is surrounded by a brilliant flash of light. Blushing and covering her mouth, Maria is overwhelmed by how super adorable he was. Alfred sits with his toy, thinking that although he was surprised, his new stepmother was kind. As Maria walks away, Alfred watches her, wondering if perhaps she isn't a scary person after all. Alfred ponders what kind of person Maria is, while elsewhere, Zahar questions Melio, who insists he was just describing the scene. Melio recounts watching Maria and Alfred walk off together, noting the pleasant atmosphere between them. He finishes his report by telling Zahar that he saw Lord Alfred with a smile on his face. PFFT. Melio stifles a giggle, thinking, like father, like son, earning an annoyed glare from Zahar. Zahar leans forward, sternly warning Melio not to take her lightly. Melio recounts Maria's infamous past as a notorious young lady who would publicly shame rivals and delight in ruining others' happiness. He specifies her past actions, asking if Zahar is referring to her conflict with the family of Marquis Dunn. Zahar sits smugly, revealing he's been watching her and believes she's faking muteness, while recalling the king's order to terminate a rebellion. Maria arrives for dinner, noting the delicious spread and wondering if Alfred will be joining them. Ugh. Her mood sours as she sees Zahar as her only dining companion. An incredibly long table separates Maria and Zahar, the silence between them vast and awkward. Staring at each other from across the room, Maria feels the intense awkwardness of the situation. As Zahar drinks wine, Maria finds herself wishing she could have some as well. When a glass appears before her, she is surprised and touched by his seemingly thoughtful gesture. She takes a sip and is pleasantly surprised, complimenting the fine quality of the wine. Zahar watches her enjoying the wine, remarking that she seems like a completely different person now. He leans in with a piercing gaze, asking her if she wasn't supposed to be unable to drink alcohol, causing Maria to freeze in panic. As Zahar continues to question her identity, a terrified Maria is at a loss for words. Leaning across the vast table, Zahar intensifies his interrogation, demanding to know who she truly is. Internally, Maria panics, realizing she's doomed because she had no idea the original Maria didn't drink alcohol. A tiny, defeated Maria despairs, wondering if this is the end for her. Zahar strokes his chin, pondering a strange possibility. Perhaps she has a split personality. Maria breathes a silent sigh of relief, realizing she's safe for now as Zahar entertains his wild theory. She collects herself, realizing that his sharp observation about a personality shift means she can't let her guard down, even though she read the novel. Zahar stands abruptly, a new, more sinister thought crossing his mind. He suddenly grabs her chin, asking with cold intensity if she has been replaced by someone else. He notes with suspicion that she remains silent, whereas he expected her to cry out in protest. Zahar issues a chilling threat. Whether she is a liar or an imposter, he will kill her for any trickery. He taps the table with finality, warning her to tread very carefully from now on. Maria panics, terrified that he might actually kill her, possibly even in front of Alfred. Overwhelmed, she realizes her life is in danger and she must find a way to resolve his suspicions. She recalls a crucial detail from the novel. Her family was suspected of leading a rebellion, and this marriage was for surveillance. The realization dawns on her that she's essentially a political hostage, which explains Zahar's deep-seated mistrust. Huff! Overwhelmed by the stress, she collapses, knowing she can't afford a single misstep. Recovering her spirits, she still finds it hard to believe that sweet little Alfred is fated to kill her. While brushing her hair, Maria notices a small figure peeking from her doorway in the mirror's reflection. She turns to face the door, realizing Alfred has returned. Holding his stuffed toy, Alfred shyly wishes her a good night. Stunned, Maria watches him leave, wondering why he came all this way just for that. Yay, Alfred celebrates, thinking to himself that Operation Get Along was a success and that he's a good kid. Puzzled by his strange visit, Maria wonders if this means they're actually getting closer. She flops onto her bed in frustration, admitting she can't understand Alfred or Zahar at all. Lying awake, she reflects that she has never worried so much about others' thoughts before. She recalls her past life, where her first instinct was always to confront problems head-on. This new, cautious approach is driving her crazy as she lies restlessly in bed. Drifting off, she wakes up disoriented, looking out at the Grand Estate Gardens. Suddenly, she jumps up with a start, her eyes wide with shock. She reflects that she always thought she was strong and self-reliant, but this new life is proving her wrong. She shrieks in terror, unable to deal with the sight of a small mouse on the floor. Reaching out desperately, she pleads for help, then grows frustrated at the lack of response from an unseen party. Alfred peeks through the door, urgently shouting for her to run away from the danger. Maria panics wildly, screaming about the mouse, as a baffled Alfred asks what's wrong. Alfred rushes to her side and asks what's happening, while she points frantically at the mouse. He asks if she's afraid of the mouse, and she vehemently confirms she is terrified of them. Alfred calmly reaches a hand out to the mouse, gently telling it not to trouble Maria. With a proud smile, Alfred holds the tiny mouse in his hands before turning to leave. Overcome with emotion, a tearful Maria holds Alfred's hands, thanking him profusely for his help. Maria holds up a simple note that says, "Thank you," while Alfred giggles happily at her gesture. Writing on a new note, she proposes that they should help each other out whenever they're in trouble. Alfred remembers a storybook, realizing that helping each other in times of need is what friends do. His eyes sparkle with excitement as he eagerly asks if this means they're friends now. Maria is taken aback by his forwardness, thinking to herself that their relationship escalated quickly. With a warm, happy smile, she gives him an okay sign, agreeing to be his friend. Overjoyed and blushing, Alfred asks if she really means it. Yay, hooray. A jubilant Alfred gives Maria a high five, officially sealing their new friendship. Taking their new status seriously, Alfred immediately tells her there's something he wants help with. The scene shifts as Maria and Alfred walk together through the vast and elegant palace gardens. Alfred shyly explains his problem. He's always it when playing tag, because he can't catch up and trips easily. With renewed determination, he declares that he wants to learn how to run better. Alfred looks up at Maria, noting that she seems very fast. Yay, Maria happily agrees to help him, and Alfred celebrates with outstretched arms. As Alfred runs, Maria watches with a critical eye, thinking he's so slow she could walk faster, while he pushes himself with a determined grimace. Huh? Just as she's critiquing him, Alfred suddenly trips and tumbles to the ground. Kneeling beside a dejected Alfred, Maria decides that they will simply have to practice. All right. With a fiery glint in her eyes, Maria declares it's time to train him hard, much to Alfred's alarm. Bam! She dramatically slams a wooden practice sword into the ground, signaling the start of his training. Maria presents a grueling 3-step regimen: 100 arm swings, 20 laps around the garden, and 20 trips up and down the stairs. Ugh. A nervous Alfred looks at the daunting list, wondering if he can actually do it. Their training begins as Alfred runs through the flower-lined garden path, with Maria jogging beside him. From a distance, Zahar watches them train with a cold, suspicious expression. Accompanied by Melio, Zahar decides he's going to check on the situation himself. While running up the grand staircase, Alfred falters, his legs suddenly refusing to move. He loses his footing and tumbles backward down the stairs as Maria cries out and lunges desperately to catch him. Oh no. As they both fall, Maria realizes with horror that she won't reach him in time. In a flash, a strong arm catches Alfred, stopping his fall just inches from the floor. Alfred looks up to see his dad holding him, while a relieved Maria whispers, "Thank goodness." Zahar furiously accuses Maria of pushing Alfred, leaving her in complete shock at the baseless accusation. With a chilling glare, Zahar warns her to stay away from Alfred, threatening that he won't be so forgiving next time. Slam-livid, Maria throws down a wine bottle, screaming that she didn't push him and it was an accident. She slumps over in despair, weeping that she was only trying her best to help him. No. She reflects bitterly that nothing has changed and her good intentions are still being twisted. Her somber mood is interrupted by the sound of footsteps on the nearby staircase. She looks up to see Alfred peering down, who quietly says, "No way." Looking directly at her, Alfred earnestly declares that he wants Miss Maria to be the one to teach him. A bouquet of flowers surrounds her as she looks on, touched by his loyalty. Maria sadly apologizes to Alfred, but he defiantly states that he's not giving up. Her thoughts turn to Zahar, realizing that as long as he's around, her efforts will be thwarted. With a jolt of inspiration, Maria's resolve hardens. She realizes she can't give up yet. Melio politely announces his presence as he enters Zahar's office. Dressed formally, Maria stands at the doorway and asks Zahar if there is something she can help him with. She holds out a note explaining that she promised to help Alfred run faster and is requesting permission to be near him solely for that purpose. Pointing to the note, she swears in writing that she won't let anything dangerous happen again. She presents her proposal. Whenever she is with Alfred, a person of Zahar's choosing can be there to supervise. Zahar scoffs, saying this wouldn't be an issue if she just stayed away, as Maria clenches her fist, knowing he has a point. But she silently recalls Alfred's pleading face, knowing she could never say no to him. The scene closes on Alfred's determined feet, symbolizing his unwavering desire to continue their training. As Maria presents her case in Zahar's office, she notices Alfred has followed her and asks what he needs. Alfred nervously raises his hand, announcing to the room that he has something to say. Standing before Zahar, Maria, and Melio, Alfred formally declares his intention to speak. In a flashback to the staircase, Alfred passionately defends Maria, insisting she isn't a bad person and was only trying to help him. Back in the office, Alfred proudly declares that he and Maria are friends. He recounts that friends help each other, and since he wanted to run faster, she agreed to teach him. Looking at his father with determination, Alfred makes his request. He wants Maria to teach him how to run. Maria reiterates her proposal in writing, offering to have a trusted supervisor present whenever she's with Alfred. Zahar scoffs at her offer, skeptically asking who exactly she expects to perform this duty. Holding Alfred's hand, Maria's hope falters, realizing there's no way Zahar or Melio would agree. Alfred brightly volunteers his dad to be the supervisor, much to Zahar's complete shock. Now in the garden, a reluctant Zahar watches their training, muttering about not having time for silly games. Alfred defends their exercise, explaining that Maria said starting with fun games is the best way to develop balance. Maria adds with a satisfied smile that it's a modern training method for strengthening the legs and core. She doubts Zahar would understand the method's logic, but he watches them with a quiet, unreadable intensity. Deciding he's seen enough, Zahar gets up to leave, instructing Melio to keep an eye on them. He announces he's going back to work, leaving Alfred and Maria watching him depart. Ugh. Alfred's face falls with disappointment, sighing that he knew this would happen, as Maria wonders why her son's feelings bother Zahar so much. A trembling Alfred despairs that his dad must really dislike him, and Maria realizes he's completely heartbroken. Alfred suddenly takes off running, with renewed focus, leaving Maria to watch from behind. Maria ponders Zahar's harshness, wondering if there might be a hidden reason for his strict demeanor. Huff! After an intense run, Maria calls for a break, and an exhausted Alfred readily agrees. The two enjoy a peaceful snack break on a blanket in the sunny garden. Melio arrives with tea, but his expression turns suspicious as he smells the pot, making Maria nervous. Alfred pipes up, identifying the herb as rosemary, which helps relieve fatigue. Panicking, Maria writes a note to deflect suspicion, internally cursing her past self for creating this mistrustful environment. Alfred proudly offers the tea to Melio, announcing that it contains rosemary. Huh? Maria is baffled, silently wondering how on earth Alfred knew what was in the tea. Melio misreads the situation entirely, fawning over how stylish the madam is to know such things. He pours the tea for Alfred, confident that it will help relieve his fatigue. Maria thanks Alfred for covering for her and asks how he knew about the rosemary. He explains the maid told him. She breathes a sigh of relief, reminding herself that there's no such thing as mind reading. The scene shifts as an unseen person nervously thinks about a sudden invitation. It's her first ball, and she's extremely nervous, as shown by the back of her elegant dress. Maria stands revealed in a magnificent red and black ball gown, surrounded by a flourish of roses. Wow! A dapperly dressed Alfred gasps in awe, telling Maria she looks beautiful. Zahar, looking stern and formal, curtly asks if they are ready to depart. Zahar leads Maria and Alfred, now a family dressed for an evening out, to the royal family's party. The scene opens on a grand, glittering ballroom where lords and ladies are dancing gracefully. The family approaches the palace's main doors, flanked by stoic royal guards. Zahar gives Maria a sharp warning to follow him and do nothing foolish, which she silently accepts. Overwhelmed by the breathtaking palace interior, Maria follows Zahar's lead to greet the king. The red-haired king sits on his throne beside a smug-looking young boy, Prince Carlos. The focus shifts to the young prince, who sits confidently on his own smaller throne. Zahar and his family formally greet the king, who welcomes them with a smile. The king inquires how the competent Zahar is treating the duchess, making Maria bow nervously. Zahar explains Maria has a sore throat, and the king encourages her to enjoy the party, leaving her to ponder the motives of the man who forced her marriage. The king greets Alfred, who shyly hides behind Maria, earning a light scolding from Zahar that the king quickly dismisses. Maria gently comforts the bashful Alfred, who remains close to her side. Prince Carlos enthusiastically greets Zahar, asking for another lesson in politics, to which Zahar warmly agrees. The king remarks how much Prince Carlos likes Zahar and suggests he go play with Alfred instead. Alfred smiles bashfully at the suggestion, while Prince Carlos looks thoroughly unamused. Believing the boys will get along, the king watches as Carlos ignores Alfred and states he wants to talk with Zahar. The king encourages the prince to play, and Carlos reluctantly agrees, telling a hopeful Alfred to follow him. Alfred agrees, and the scene shifts to the garden, where a young girl invites Carlos to play tag. Surrounded by the other children, Alfred proudly announces to them that he has been training. As the game of tag begins, Alfred dashes forward, tagging another boy, while a third taunts that he can't be caught. Gotcha Alfred successfully tags the boy and excitedly asks if he's gotten a little faster. The surprised boy asks what happened, and Alfred proudly demonstrates his new one-footed hopping skill. Prince Carlos scoffs, but just then, whoa, Alfred trips and falls hard onto the ground. Prince Carlos kindly offers a hand to Alfred, asking if he is okay, and Alfred shyly thanks him. But as Alfred takes his hand, Carlos coldly says, "I hate you so much," leaving Alfred shocked and in tears. Back in the ballroom, Maria exhales, relieved to be done with the nerve-wracking greetings. Zahar takes her arm, keeping her close by his side. He reminds her to stay close, since she can't talk, and she wonders why he seems so worried. Vogue Maria feels awkward, noting that despite their mutual dislike, they look like a real married couple. Zahar bluntly clarifies that he hates it too, causing Maria to fume that he's the worst. The two stand stiffly side by side, united only in their mutual annoyance. Guests whisper about the newlyweds, gossiping about their arranged marriage and Maria's fallen family. Annoyed, Maria glares at the gossips, thinking that she can hear every word they're saying. Suddenly, a group of young noblewomen cheerfully calls out, "Lady Maria." 3 ladies greet her enthusiastically, saying it's been a long time. Maria is completely bewildered as one woman exclaims how sad she was not to see her lately. They congratulate her on the marriage, gushing over how well she and Zahar suit each other. Utterly confused by the fawning women, Maria and Zahar share a moment of mutual bewilderment. The ladies giggle amongst themselves, agreeing on how perfect the couple is. Zahar abruptly walks away, leaving Maria to fume over him, abandoning her after insisting she stay by his side. The ladies now turn their attention to Maria's jewelry, gushing over how gorgeous it is. They all chime in with agreement, admiring her necklace. Oh wait, Maria has a sudden, dreadful realization. They're not admiring her. They're after her jewels. Her imagination runs wild as the ladies greedily demand she hand over the jewels. Maria tries to retreat from the swarming ladies, annoyed by their persistent and obviously fake flattery. Watching from afar, Zahar observes her, thinking she is a completely different person than before. The king claps his hands, officially inviting the guests to enjoy the evening's festivities. The ballroom comes alive as couples begin to waltz across the dance floor. The king approaches Zahar, asking why he isn't dancing with his wife. With a bow, Zahar respectfully accepts the king's not-so-subtle command. Zahar approaches Maria, who stands alone enjoying a glass of wine. When he asks her for a dance, she curtly refuses with a "no thanks." Zahar insists it's an order from the king and firmly leads her to the dance floor. They begin an awkward, stiff dance, clearly uncomfortable with each other. Zahar condescendingly notes that her dancing isn't as impressive as he'd heard, shocking her. Furious at being forced to dance and then insulted, Maria's competitive spirit ignites, determined to prove him wrong. With a fierce expression, Maria takes the lead, forcefully twirling and astonished Zahar. Zahar warns her not to act without permission, but she retorts that he's not her boss. He sternly orders her to follow his lead, but she glares back, thinking she will never obey him. Maria defiantly takes control of the dance, executing a dramatic dip that catches Zahar off guard. 2 onlookers watch nervously, commenting on how intense their dance has become. Zahar remarks that they really don't get along, and Maria readily agrees. Wow! In a moment of pique, Maria purposefully stomps on his foot, then feigns surprise. A flashback begins, showing a younger, flustered Zahar being coolly dismissed by a regal, white-haired woman who announces her departure. The woman turns and walks away down the grand, sunlit corridor. The scene shifts to a rainy courtyard, where guards attend to a fallen Prince Carlos, as Alfred stands watching nearby. From a distance, Maria sees the commotion and cries out Alfred's name in alarm. The flashback deepens, showing Prince Carlos on the ground, kindly asking Alfred if he is okay. The prince helps Alfred to his feet as other children look on. However, Alfred angrily snatches his hand back, shouting that everyone hates the prince. The prince calmly ignores the outburst and offers to help Alfred up again. The prince cruelly taunts Alfred, saying he can't believe he's Zahar's son and that he's useless just like his dead mother. The vicious insult leaves Alfred utterly shocked and speechless. Smack Alfred slaps the prince's hand away, fiercely defending his mother's memory. Wah! The prince fakes a dramatic fall, acting as if he were seriously pushed. Playing the victim, the prince angrily demands to know what Alfred is doing. The prince points accusingly at Alfred, loudly complaining to the guards that he was rudely brushed off. He continues his act, tearfully asking what Alfred's problem is. The prince's cruel words about Alfred's mother echo through the boy's mind. Overwhelmed by the insult, Alfred kneels on the ground and begins to cry. Maria rushes toward the scene, calling out Alfred's name with urgency. She reaches his side, gently asking the crying boy what happened. Maria pulls Alfred into a comforting embrace as he sobs. The prince tells a twisted version of events where Alfred shoved him, and another child supports the lie, leaving Maria to question what really happened. Feeling betrayed and overwhelmed, Alfred pulls away from Maria and runs off. As he flees, Alfred sinks into despair, convinced no one could possibly understand how he feels. He sits alone in the cold rain, feeling isolated and misunderstood. A kind voice calls his name as Maria appears, sheltering him from the rain with her umbrella. She gently reassures him that it's okay not to talk, promising that she is always on his side. She explains that she once let go of Prince Carlos's hand simply because she didn't like it, showing Alfred he's not alone. Maria holds up her notepad, asking Alfred what he wants to do next. With newfound resolve, Alfred looks up and says he wants to apologize. Maria lovingly pulls him into another hug, their bond solidified under a starry sky. The flashback ends as Alfred formally bows to Prince Carlos, apologizing for his actions. Alfred explains he wants to be someone great like his amazing parents, and for people to understand that. The prince is unimpressed, blandly telling him to work hard and move on. Prince Carlos looks away, clearly flustered and annoyed by Alfred's earnestness. Zahar watches from the side, his expression hardening as he clenches his fist. He storms over, furiously demanding to know what Alfred is doing. Zahar shouts at his son, who looks up at him with a startled, blushing face. Maria quickly steps between them, placing a protective hand on Alfred's shoulder. Zahar coldly dismisses Maria, telling her he doesn't have time to deal with her. He turns his fury back on Alfred, demanding to know why he pushed the prince. Alfred stands frozen, trembling, and unable to find the words to defend himself. Zahar bows deeply to Prince Carlos, humbly apologizing for his son's insolence and promising a stern scolding. After thanking the prince, Zahar grabs a trembling Alfred's arm and drags him away. Zahar locks Alfred in a dark room, lecturing him for his behavior and ordering him to reflect on his actions. Father Alfred pleads from behind the door, crying that he's sorry. Slam! Zahar walks away, leaving his son locked inside the stone room. The scene returns to the present, where the dark-haired man tries to de-escalate the confrontation between Maria and Zahar. Maria's face is a mask of cold, determined fury as she glares at Zahar. Maria clenches her fist, vowing to discover the truth behind Alfred's actions and free him from his unjust punishment. Huh? Hearing a noise, Alfred looks up to see Maria peeking through the barred window of his door. She offers him a small bag of bread, and he wonders if it's truly for him. Standing on a chair, a starving Alfred gratefully reaches for the bread and thanks her. Their hands touch as she carefully passes the small sack of food to him. Clutching the offering, Alfred suddenly objects, insisting that Maria must go sleep in her own room. Blah. He immediately claps his hands over his mouth, shocked by his own words. The bag of bread slips from his grasp and falls to the stone floor. Maria is stunned, wondering if Alfred somehow knows what she was thinking. It can't be, she thinks with growing alarm, since she hadn't said a single word. As they both panic, Maria questions what's happening, while Alfred worries he's been busted. Alfred tries to play it cool, but Maria sees right through his act, while he inwardly panics that she knows. While Alfred tries to rationalize that mind reading is impossible, Maria starts to believe he truly can do it. She flashes back to the garden, where Alfred correctly identified the rosemary in the tea. I knew it, she thinks, with dawning certainty, realizing he really does have that kind of power. Alfred denies it, but Maria writes a direct question. Is that related to what happened with Prince Carlos? His cautious reaction confirms her suspicions. He nervously takes the new note she passes through the bars. We're friends, aren't we? Friends. Alfred repeats, looking at the note with wide, touched eyes. He looks up and promises her that he won't tell anyone about this. They seal their secret with a pinky promise through the iron bars. Maria smiles warmly, promising that she will never betray his trust. Overwhelmed with emotion, Alfred tearfully asks if she really means it. She confirms her promise with a gentle, unwavering yes. Wah! The boy finally lets go, breaking into heartfelt sobs. Maria's heart aches, realizing how hard it must have been for him to endure carrying such a huge secret alone. Finding herself crying too, she listens as Alfred confesses he can hear people's hearts when he touches them. He asks if she's scared of him, but Maria reassures him and asks why he tripped Prince Carlos. Alfred explains that Carlos tripped him first, and when the prince helped him up, he heard his hateful thoughts. Crying, he clarifies the real reason for his anger. Prince Carlos had made fun of his mother. Even if she's not here anymore, he sobs, wiping his tears. So that's the reason Maria thinks finally understanding everything. He declares with newfound resolve that he'll become a great person to prove how amazing his mother was. Maria smiles warmly, promising to cheer for him. Beaming with joy, Alfred exclaims how happy he is to be friends with Maria. Okay, he says, reaching up to her in a gesture of their new bond. As Maria turns to leave, a pair of men's shoes stops directly in her path. A shadowy figure holding a lantern approaches her down the dark corridor. Startled, Maria looks up in shock and fear. It's Zahar, who illuminates her with his lantern while demanding to know what she's doing. Zahar, she thinks, her heart pounding in her chest. He scrutinizes her tear-stained face with a critical eye. You look terrible, he states bluntly, leaving Maria fuming at his complete lack of tact. His expression hardens with suspicion as he demands to know what she's plotting this time. Alfred calls out nervously, startling them both. Zahar's intense gaze remains fixed on Maria. She laments that trying to help Alfred without Zahar finding out was never going to be easy. A sudden thought strikes her. Could Zahar already know about Alfred's power? She remembers Alfred's plea not to tell his father, and the pieces click into place. With a determined look, Maria signals a silent plan to Alfred, who nervously agrees to follow her lead. As Zahar questions Maria, Alfred frantically yells from behind her, apologizing to his father. Sobbing, Alfred tearfully claims he has reflected on his actions, playing his part in Maria's plan. With a sigh, Zahar seemingly accepts the apology and unlocks the door to Alfred's room. He opens the door and coolly tells Alfred that he can come out now. Zahar then sternly warns his son to never behave so insolently towards his highness ever again. Maria pulls Alfred behind her protectively, glaring defiantly at Zahar as they face off. As Maria fumes that he doesn't understand, Zahar coldly asks if she has a complaint. Of course I do, she thinks, furiously scribbling a response on her notepad. She shoves the note forward, angrily revealing her written accusation. Prince Carlos is the one who tripped him first. Zahar dismisses her point as irrelevant, explaining that as servants to the royal family, they are not permitted to retaliate, even if provoked. Maria concedes his point, but thinks a parent should care for their son's feelings above all else, finding his attitude pitiful. Zahar firmly warns her again, ordering her not to interfere with Alfred's upbringing. No, Maria clenches her fist, refusing to back down from the confrontation. On this, I will absolutely never back down, she declares silently, while Alfred anxiously wonders how to stop them. In a brilliant moment of inspiration, Alfred points to the window and exclaims, "The moon is smiling." Huh? The sudden distraction works perfectly, as both Maria and Zahar turn to look, completely bewildered. They both see the normal moon and think that it doesn't look like that at all. The fight drains out of Maria as she realizes they will never agree, and she gives a small, resigned smile. Alfred beams with pride, overjoyed that his simple trick successfully de-escalated the tense situation. Maria takes Alfred's hand and walks away, leaving a silent Zahar holding the lantern. Zahar watches them go, his stern expression softening slightly as he wonders, since when did they start holding hands? Later, a dark-haired man smiles, noting to Zahar that Sir Alfred has been released from his room. The man observes that he thought Zahar was planning on keeping Alfred confined until the next day. He teases Zahar for not being genuinely worried, privately musing how clumsy his colleague is with his feelings. The man places a sealed letter on the desk before Zahar. Zahar picks up the envelope, which reveals a summons from a Marquis Dane. Zahar's expression turns serious as he reads the contents of the summons. The scene shifts to a carriage rattling along a sun-dappled country road. Whoa! Alfred peers excitedly out the carriage window, amazed by the beautiful scenery. Inside, Zahar tells the boy not to lean out so far, while Maria sits beside them in a formal traveling dress. Alfred dutifully sits back down beside a smiling Maria. He blushes with excitement, happily exclaiming that it's their first time going out together. Maria looks at the boy with genuine warmth and affection. Internally, however, she grits her teeth, fuming that she can't enjoy this trip at all. She dreads visiting her family's estate, recalling her smirking father and the family's bad reputation. Zahar reads a book, thinking about how the Brown family has a contentious history with his own. Under a grim, overcast sky, the family arrives at a massive estate, as Zahar suggests they go in. Zahar leads the way into a grand hall, with Maria and Alfred following hand in hand. An older, white-haired man with a wide smile greets them, declaring how happy he is to see them. Zahar bows politely, formally returning the greeting. The man, Maria's father, asks how she is and if she's getting along with Zahar, but Maria looks away, unamused. He cheerfully invites them to sit for a long chat, gesturing them forward. As they follow, Alfred tugs on Maria's dress, thinking the man is unpleasant, a sentiment Maria shares. The family sits at a large, ornate table, the atmosphere already feeling tense. Maria presents a note to her father, explaining that she is currently unable to speak. Ha! Her father scoffs, finding it amusing that the once talkative Maria has gone mute. He then apologizes to Zahar for his daughter being such a bother. He calls Maria his beloved daughter, and patronizingly asks Zahar to take care of her. Beloved daughter? Maria seethes, outraged he'd say such a thing after sending her away like a hostage. Zahar remains stoic and observant as Maria looks down, clenching her fists in silent fury. Zahar firmly defends Maria to her parents, insisting she is not a bother at all. He explains she just can't speak, leaving Maria stunned and touched by his unexpected defense. Maria's father changes the subject, asking Zahar for a small favor. He smugly explains his desire to expand his mining operations, asking for Zahar's help to get the king's permission. Maria worries, unable to discern her father's true intentions and suspecting he's trying to use Zahar. Her father tells Zahar he doesn't need an immediate answer, maintaining his pleasant facade. As they stare each other down, Maria's father suggests a mine tour, while Zahar considers the country's industry. Delighted, Maria's father praises Zahar's brilliance, his plan seemingly falling into place. His smile turns sinister as he thinks about seeing a child from Maria and Zahar, horrifying Maria. "You sly old fox." Maria fumes internally, appalled he'd say that in front of Alfred. Her father then turns to Alfred, condescendingly asking if the boy is lonely. Maria angrily pulls Alfred away from her father, shielding him protectively. Holding Alfred close, she declares that with him by her side, she's perfectly fine. Her father smirks cruelly, sarcastically, asking if Alfred is mute as well. Zahar coldly intervenes, stating that Alfred only speaks to people he trusts. A wide shot captures the tense, uncomfortable atmosphere filling the grand room. Seemingly undeterred, Maria's father offers to buy Alfred anything he wants as a gift. Alfred shrinks away from the offer, burying his face in Maria's dress. A young white-haired man enters, telling his father that he's had enough. The newcomer is revealed to be a well-dressed young man in a green vest. He kneels down, gently telling his father that he's making Alfred uncomfortable. Apologizing to the startled boy, the young man kindly asks if he was scared. Standing, he formally welcomes Duke Brown and Alfred before announcing that dinner is ready. The scene shifts to the group seated around a large, elegantly set dining table. Maria recognizes the man as her brother, Daniel, and thinks he seems surprisingly normal for their family. A glittering plate of perfectly cooked steak is placed on the table. Alfred happily digs in, exclaiming it's delicious, much to Daniel's delight. Alfred and Maria share a quiet moment, enjoying their meal together. Maria's mother criticizes her lack of jewelry, prompting Maria to internally mock her mother's blindingly excessive gems. Her mother suggests Maria's muteness is from a lack of energy, leaving Maria speechless at the insult. Remembering her past life, Maria's interest is piqued by the mention of the mine. She decides to visit the mine tomorrow and gently asks Alfred if he'll be okay alone. Alfred's eyes light up as he insists he wants to go wherever Maria goes. Alfred asks his father to come along, and Zahar agrees, saying it's important to see things firsthand. "Let's all go together." Alfred declares, overjoyed at the prospect of a group outing. Maria decisively slides a note forward that reads, "I'm going too," surprising her family and making Daniel realize she's changed. Daniel agrees to be their guide as their carriage travels toward a rugged mountain range. In the carriage, Daniel announces they are approaching their destination. Alfred exclaims, "Amazing," as they gaze upon the massive Baltz mine, the nation's largest income source. The group walks through the mining town, with Daniel, Zahar, Maria, and a cheerful Alfred holding hands. Maria examines a dark stone she's found, wondering if it could be a piece of tin ore. She imagines the massive increase in national profit if tin could be mined along with silver. She clutches the stone, frustrated that no one would believe her if she told them. Alfred finds a similar stone and, after some hesitation, decides to bring it to Maria. Beaming, Alfred runs to Zahar and Daniel to show them the valuable-looking stone he discovered. The men inspect the ore, agreeing that it's an unusual type they haven't seen before. Since it's not silver, Daniel nonchalantly tosses the potentially valuable ore aside. Maria watches in distress as the men dismiss her discovery and turn to speak with a miner. "Huh?" Alfred suddenly dashes off, shouting that he's found another shiny stone in the bushes. Ah, wait, Maria cries out, seeing Alfred climbing onto a dangerous rock face. A miner shouts a warning that the cave Alfred is approaching is dangerous, as Daniel and Zahar look on in alarm. Daniel grabs the miner's lantern and rushes forward, with Zahar following closely behind to chase after the boy. In a moment of panic, Alfred tumbles down a steep ravine as Maria and Zahar scramble down after him. At the bottom of the dark chasm, Alfred looks around in fear as his parents desperately try to reach him. The ground suddenly rumbles, and a terrified Maria looks up, fearing an earthquake has started. Panicked and fearing death, Maria hears a voice calling her name through the darkness. Zahar shields Maria from falling debris, holding her close as he asks if she's all right. Staring at Zahar, Maria processes the fact that he just saved her life. A sudden, horrifying thought strikes Maria as she realizes Alfred is no longer in sight. Panicking that Alfred is lost, Maria watches as Zahar grabs the lantern and hurries onward. Maria spots a bloody wound on Zahar's arm and worries, but he insists he's fine and they must find Alfred. Clasping her hands anxiously, Maria prays for Alfred's safety. A small voice announces Alfred's presence, and Zahar rushes toward the sound, asking if he's hurt. From the shadows, Alfred tentatively replies that he's not hurt, then adds a doubtful, maybe. Zahar and Maria stand together, peering into the dark cave with a lantern. Zahar points out a path over some rubble, suggesting it's the only way to reach Alfred. He tells Maria to stay where she is for her own safety. As Zahar begins to climb, his injured arm falters, and Maria rushes to his side. Rep! Maria decisively tears a strip from her blouse, explaining it's for first aid. She ties the makeshift bandage around his arm, acknowledging it's better than nothing. Zahar looks at his newly bandaged arm and quietly thanks her. Maria holds the lantern high, lighting the way as Zahar continues his difficult climb. Reaching the other side, Zahar calls out to his son. Alfred looks up with relief, calling back to his father. Zahar pulls his son into a comforting hug, reassuring him that he's safe now. Holding Alfred close, Zahar tells him to climb up first to get to safety. Zahar helps push Alfred up the steep rock ledge. Phew. Maria breathes a sigh of relief as Alfred calls to her from the top of the ledge. Just as they feel safe, a violent aftershock hits, and Alfred cries out as the ground shakes. Maria screams Alfred's name in sheer terror. Reaching out desperately, she yells for Alfred to jump, promising she will catch him. Trusting her completely, Alfred leaps from the ledge into her waiting arms. Maria catches Alfred, holding him in a tight, relieved embrace. Clutching him, Maria frantically asks if he's all right. Alfred says he's fine, then looks at her in amazement, pointing out that she just spoke his name. Stunned, Maria touches her throat, realizing with shock that her voice has returned. Zahar notes her voice is back, and Maria smiles, believing her desperate fear for Alfred brought it back. Maria gently touches a smiling Alfred's cheek, overjoyed. Yay, Alfred celebrates her recovery as Maria thanks him tenderly. The two share a bright, happy hug, both overjoyed by the turn of events. Light floods the cave as rescuers break through, and Maria realizes they're finally safe. The scene shifts to the grand family mansion under a starry night sky. Exhausted from the day's ordeal, Alfred sleeps soundly. Maria gently tucks Alfred into bed, telling him how brave he was. Wishing him good night, she quietly closes the door to his room. Knock, knock. Someone gently raps on a heavy wooden door. Maria stands at Zahar's door asking to enter, and he grants her permission from within. Entering the room, Maria finds Zahar sitting pensively by the balcony as he asks what she wants. Maria presents a first aid kit, stating she came to properly treat his injury. Zahar dismisses his injury as nothing serious, but Maria insists on treating it now, refusing to wait. Taking charge, Maria firmly orders a surprised Zahar to sit down so she can treat him. As they sit together, a sudden memory of a child crying out in pain surfaces. The memory is of Maria gently treating a young, crying Alfred's scraped knee, promising to be quick. Maria smiles, realizing Zahar is, just like Alfred, always fussy about getting his wounds treated. She then asks him to show her his injured shoulder, and he looks on with slight apprehension. As he removes his shirt, a flustered Maria is caught off guard, simultaneously embarrassed and impressed by his physique. Lost in admiration of his muscular form, she mentally scolds herself to focus on the task at hand. Seeing the severe bruising on his shoulder, Maria apologizes, feeling it's her fault. But Zahar insists he made his own choice and did nothing wrong. He reassures her with a smile, adding that her makeshift bandage was a great help. Pleased, Maria listens as Zahar credits her with saving him, saying he is still here thanks to her. Despite the tender moment, Zahar again downplays his injury as Maria prepares the first aid kit. His expression turns serious as he admits he wouldn't be able to bear it if anything had happened to Alfred. Holding the first aid kit, Maria softly agrees that she feels the exact same way. As she prepares the antiseptic, Zahar hesitantly speaks up, getting her attention. Zahar confesses that back then, he had wrongly assumed she was the one who pushed Alfred off the stairs. She prepares to treat his wound, wanting to apologize for her part in what happened that day. She playfully presses the stinging antiseptic to his wound, teasing that this makes them even. The tension breaks, and they share a warm, smiling glance, their misunderstanding finally resolved. The next day, Prince Carlos sees the family off, apologizing for the trouble they went through. Zahar expresses his gratitude, while Prince Carlos remarks on the miracle of Maria's voice returning. Prince Carlos's expression shifts as he observes Maria, commenting on how much marriage has changed her. As Maria excuses her family to leave, Prince Carlos internally vows never to visit her home again. Just as they are about to depart, a messenger rushes up, calling urgently for Lord Zahar. The messenger apologizes for bothering him as Zahar asks what is wrong. He delivers grave news. A diplomatic ship carrying a large amount of silver has capsized in a storm. What? The entire family is stunned by the shocking report. The messenger reports that a diplomatic ship carrying silver has capsized in a storm, shocking the family. Zahar asks about the crew's safety and is relieved to hear they survived, but the massive silver load has vanished into the sea. Realizing the severity of the situation, Zahar determines they must urgently find a replacement for the lost silver. Understanding it's a diplomatic crisis, Zahar tells Maria he must leave for the royal palace immediately. Maria worries about him leaving so soon, but he stresses the urgency and entrusts Alfred to her care. She looks on, her face filled with concern as he departs. Maria places a reassuring hand on Alfred's shoulder as they watch Zahar's carriage disappear down the road. Aye. Back inside, Maria sinks onto the sofa, utterly exhausted from the recent events, while Alfred sits quietly nearby. Alfred timidly asks if his father will be all right, and if there's anything he can do to help. She pulls him into her lap for a cuddle, explaining that since his work is complicated, all they can do now is wait. Alfred clutches her dress, snuggling close for comfort. Rumble. Alfred's stomach growls loudly, and he breaks into a fit of giggles. His infectious giggling tickles her, and she bursts into laughter, thinking he's just too adorable. Lying on the couch, she has a moment of realization. She wasn't really fond of children until she met Alfred. She gently strokes the boy's hair as he rests peacefully on her. He looks up and asks if he's really special, and Maria confirms he is, reminding him of his interesting gift. She recalls her earlier words and decides she should ask him about his power again, just to be sure. Alfred eagerly agrees, sitting up to face her. Maria considers his ability, concluding he inherited it from his mother, and that such a power could be easily abused. She warns him that there's also a downside to his gift. Alfred confesses that he hears awful thoughts from people, wishing for others to disappear or even die. He explains that because of this, he actively tries to avoid getting close to anyone. Her heart goes out to him as she touches her brooch, murmuring how awful that must be for him. Alfred happily tells Maria that his power lets him be closer to her, leaving her touched by his words. Overwhelmed by his cuteness, she gives him a big hug, but he then quietly wishes his dad could get some rest too. Maria thoughtfully agrees, sharing his concern for Zahar. Her thoughts drift to the sunken ship, its lost silver lying at the bottom of the sea. Ah! A sudden thought strikes Maria as she gasps in realization. She touches the brooch on her dress, thinking she may have found a solution to their problem. Clutching a handkerchief, a look of firm resolve crosses her face. In the library, Alfred is amazed by the countless books, confident they'll find the answer they're looking for. After searching through massive stacks of books, both she and an exhausted Alfred press on with their research. Suddenly, Maria slams a book open on the table and cries out, "There it is!" Examining a dark rock, she notes its features and joyfully declares that it is, without a doubt, tin. Yay! Alfred celebrates their discovery, but Maria quickly shushes him, asking him to keep his voice down. An attendant greets Maria upon her return, and she immediately asks if Zahar is back yet. She correctly guesses the shipwreck is the reason for Zahar's absence, surprising the man with her sharp insight. The attendant nervously deflects her question, leaving Alfred in her care as she and the boy quickly depart. She enters Zahar's study to find him stressed at his desk, and he apologetically tells her he's busy. Insisting she just needs a moment, Maria presents the rock, and he recognizes it from their time in the cave. She declares it's tin, abundant in the Baltz mine and as valuable as silver, causing Zahar to jump up in shock. Zahar leans forward, intently asking her to explain how that's possible. She passionately explains that tin is more malleable than silver, making it perfect for wine glasses, cutlery, and more. Smiling, she adds that it's easy to manufacture, doesn't rust, and has a low melting point. Zahar muses that such a resource has been right under their feet, and Maria agrees it could be a new industry for the country. His expression turns serious as he looks at her, asking how she knows so much about this. Oops, realizing she's revealed too much, she laughs nervously, trying to come up with an excuse. She continues to talk her way around the question, as Zahar listens in silent contemplation. Zahar reflects that he and everyone else had the wrong idea about her, never expecting this kind of insight. A small, knowing smile touches his lips as he watches her. "That's right, don't underestimate me," she declares, while internally panicking that she can't reveal her past life experience. He admits she's been surprising him a lot lately, constantly exceeding his expectations. She playfully asks if that was a compliment, and he simply confirms that it was. Zahar explains that since the silver for a diplomatic contract was lost, he's been stuck trying to find an alternative. Holding up the piece of tin, Maria insists that she really thinks her idea could work. Decisively, Zahar says he'll write to her brother right away, expecting a quick response from her family. He looks down at the tin ore, genuinely thanking her for her help. Smiling softly, she says it's the least she can do, since he saved her back in the cave. As she turns to leave, Maria suddenly trips over a stack of books, and Zahar shouts her name in alarm. He lunges forward and catches her, pulling her close to him. Holding her steady, he looks down at her with concern. She blushes intensely, realizing how close they are and that his hand is on her waist. He breaks the tension by bluntly commenting that she's quite heavy, and she snaps back. How rude. Annoyed, she pushes herself away, sarcastically thanking him for saving her before storming off. He can only watch her go, meekly saying, okay. He thinks to himself that he meant to say healthy and was only trying to be polite. A gentle smile plays on his lips as he looks at his hand, remembering the moment. Later, in a grand meeting room, Zahar sits with Maria and an attendant, a wooden box before him. Opening the box, Maria admires the two beautifully crafted tin goblets inside. She presents a goblet to a regal man, remarking that she wants one for herself, and he replies that he's glad she likes it. The attendant informs the king that the idea was Maria's, but she humbly insists she just shared old knowledge. Zahar listens quietly, his gaze fixed on her from across the table. Zahar speaks up, telling the king she's not a villain, but someone who genuinely cares for the country's future. Flustered by his praise, Maria wonders if this is a sign of her changing fate. She clutches her handkerchief, blushing happily at the thought. She feels she's a step closer to avoiding disaster, but Zahar's usual stoic face makes her comically anxious. Deciding she still has a long way to go, she turns away, leaving a confused Zahar behind. An official reports that Maria's proposed tin products have become very popular in the city due to their quality and ease of manufacturing. The meeting concludes successfully, with Maria, Zahar, and the officials sitting around the table. The official informs her the king is pleased, and Maria smiles, glad to hear it. A quiet, somber mood falls over Maria as her thoughts turn elsewhere. She turns to Zahar, hesitantly asking about her family home. With a serious expression, she asks if her father has said anything about the recent events. Worried, she asks Zahar if Mr. Dunn expressed any displeasure from the king over the incident. Zahar reassures her that nothing was said, adding that her family's profits have actually increased since the tin came from their land. He sits at the table, calmly observing her reaction to the news. Breathing a sigh of relief, Maria admits his words are reassuring. Her pensive reflection appears in the shiny surface of a tin goblet. The official notes he's surprised she would speak of her father that way, and she just laughs awkwardly. She quickly stands, suggesting they end the conversation for now with a polite smile. Later, while reading a letter, she feels thankful that Daniel was there to help. She muses that it's a miracle. Someone decent exists in the Dunn family, imagining her kind brother. Her mind drifts, picturing herself in a cage before seeing Alfred wander alone into a forest. Alfred continues his solitary walk deeper into the dark woods. Maria pauses her writing, looking up with a sudden sense of unease. Sitting at her desk, she notes the terrible weather as a storm rages outside. A maid bursts in, calling for Lady Maria and apologizing for the intrusion. The maid reports that Lord Alfred is missing, and Maria clutches her chest in shock. Her mind flashes back to Alfred walking into the forest as she gasps in dawning horror. She tells a newly arrived Zahar that Alfred went to the forest, but he doubts the boy would go out in such a storm. Putting on her cloak, she insists she saw him, and Zahar considers her words. When Zahar asks why, she admits she doesn't know but has a bad feeling and starts to run. An attendant rushes in to report they've searched the mansion with no sign of Alfred, increasing Maria's worry. She offers to go with Zahar, insisting it will be too dangerous for him to search alone. He firmly refuses, declaring that as Alfred's father, he must be the one to go. Zahar leads the way into the storm, telling her to stay close for protection, as she thanks him. He spots Alfred huddled behind a tree in the pouring rain and points him out. They cry out Alfred's name, finding him weeping while clutching a small kitten. Alfred looks up, relieved and surprised to see Maria and his father. Zahar angrily scolds Alfred for coming out in the storm, while Maria watches with concern. Alfred tearfully explains he was protecting a kitten, but Zahar shouts that it doesn't matter. He orders Alfred to leave the cat and come home immediately. No, Alfred cries, refusing to leave because he knows the kitten will die if he does. Maria gently intervenes, stroking Alfred's hair and telling him they'll take the kitten home. Through his tears, Alfred hopefully asks if they can really take the kitten too. With a warm, reassuring smile, Maria confirms that they will. Back inside, Maria orders a bath for Alfred and tells Zahar to go warm up. But Alfred worries she'll abandon the kitten. She promises she won't abandon it and urges him to go get warm. Maria watches with a gentle expression as the maids lead a shivering Alfred away. As she tenderly cleans the kitten, she tells it how lucky it is to have met an angel like Alfred. Zahar watches before coldly warning that strays carry diseases and orders her to throw it out. She stands her ground, refusing because she made a promise to Alfred. Zahar angrily asserts his authority as head of the house, but she pleads with him, reminding him Alfred saved the cat. Facing him down, Maria firmly declares she will take full responsibility for the kitten. As Zahar silently walks away, she thanks him for relenting. The scene shifts, indicating that some time has passed. Later, Alfred is tucked into bed, sick with a fever from being out in the storm. Maria rushes to his side with the kitten, anxiously asking if he's okay. Cough. Weakly, Alfred ignores his own condition and asks if the kitten is safe. She reassures him that the kitten is fine and tells him to rest, coaxing a faint smile from him. Watching him finally relax, Maria breathes a quiet sigh of relief. Zahar appears behind her, softly asking if Alfred is asleep yet. She explains that Alfred just fell asleep, exhausted from the cold, and Zahar quietly accepts her answer. Sitting on the bed, Zahar admits he was honestly expecting her to pull a stunt like this. He gently checks Alfred's temperature, relieved the fever isn't too high, and Maria smiles in agreement. Suddenly, the kitten leaps from Maria's arms and lands directly on a startled Zahar. "Whoa!" he shouts, flustered as he tries to get the kitten off his leg while Maria laughs. He pleads for help, but she just watches, amused, thinking his gentle panic reveals a kinder side. Holding the kitten, she looks at Zahar and admits she would like to know a little more about him. Leaning in with a warm smile, she asks if he'd like to talk for a bit.